morning. All right, I am so excited to be up here today. The message that I'm going to give you has been on my heart for at least the last 6 weeks, if not the last 6 months or the whole year. It's something that I'm very excited to share with you guys. My message is very simple, and that's this. We all have a story. You all, every single person here, has a story that is unique to yourself and a story that can be used by God. So today I'm going to share with you a little bit about my story. I've been blessed by God throughout my life, probably way more than I deserve. I like to think that I had a good life growing up. My parents are still married and my family still gets along pretty well for the most part. Who knows, we're all siblings, we all argue sometimes. And my parents always made it a point to let me be involved in everything that they were able to. I had the opportunity to be a cheerleader in high school and all throughout college. I was a member of the show choir, I was on the speech team, and I was even given the opportunity to compete in the Miss America organization in pageants. And my parents, really, that would not have been possible without them. I have been blessed. I've been blessed with not having very many hardships growing up in my life. I'm very thankful for this, don't get me wrong. But when it comes to my testimony or my story or my walk with God, I've always felt like it doesn't matter comparatively to everybody else's. There are so many people on this campus and in this world that have gone through things that I couldn't even imagine having to go through. And because of this, they've come out stronger in their walk with Christ and praising God even more. They have an amazing story of how they came to Christ, and God uses those people to further their kingdom. I know that He does. Those stories continuously help me to know that God creates something out of nothing. I grew up in a house where God was always present. I don't ever remember not knowing God. It was kind of like always knowing my parents. He was always there. We always went to church on Sundays and Wednesday nights, and I even met my future husband in middle school youth group. Church has always been a part of my life. I've always known who God was or how He acted in this world. But to me, always knowing God has meant that I didn't have a testimony. I didn't have a story to share with others because He was always just there. And even if I did, my struggles were not as important as anybody else's. My problems seemed petty compared to everybody else that was going through so much more than what I could even imagine. It's always amazing when you go to things like youth rallies, church camp, or soul huts to hear the thousands of stories of the people that come from all different walks of life. I loved hearing the stories of how people overcame so many obstacles like abuse or abandonment, and they turn their lives towards God. Those stories are so amazing because with God, they are able to have new life, and they can pinpoint the exact moment when their life changed because they came to Christ. They have an amazing story that is so heart-wrenching that everyone that listens to them just immediately wants to commit their life to Christ because they don't want to see another day without it. They don't ever want to be without God. To me, those are the stories that move mountains. And whenever it became time for me to give my story at a youth rally or at a church camp, I would suddenly get nervous. And I would wish that they wouldn't ask me to give my testimony because compared to everybody else, my story was insignificant. My story didn't matter. To me, I didn't have a cool story of how I came to know Jesus, not one that would matter comparatively anyways. My story was more like, go to church since birth, learn about God, decide that I was old enough and ready to be baptized, continue going to church, go to a Christian school, continue to learn about God. Because of this, I felt like God could not use me to help anybody. My story wasn't very miraculous, so therefore I could not be used by God. I've always struggled this, especially when asked what my personal testimony was. When I was a counselor at camp, I was always asking myself, how can I even help these kids to even come to know Christ when they're going through things that I could not even imagine or bear to go through? It's taken a while for me to learn this, but God does not care how cool your story is. He doesn't care if you grew up going to church and that's how you knew God, and he doesn't care if you only know God because you chose to come to York College. He cares that you know him, and he cares that you try to live your life in a way that helps you grow in him and helps others grow in him. Who you are and where you come from is a part of your story, and you should not be ashamed about that. You shouldn't be ashamed if you grew up knowing Christ, and you shouldn't be ashamed if you just came to know him 2 weeks ago. Your story matters, regardless of where you come from. Everyone has had to overcome something that sets them apart from God. I've had to overcome many things like bitterness and selfishness, negativity, jealousy. I have many things that I've had to overcome to be who I am today and to continue to grow in Christ. But God can use the littlest obstacles to help someone else overcome their largest mountain. Everyone has a story, no matter how big or small you may think that it is. Each and every one of you has a story that is unique to you and can be life-changing for someone else. If today you only hear one thing, hear this. God uses the most ordinary people to do the most extraordinary things for his kingdom. So don't let yourself get in the way. God will use each and every one of you for his kingdom. Your story matters, so don't be afraid to share it. Thank you.